Okay, so I had a thought about a project vlog for the Melondrama socks by Stone Knits by Charlotte Stone, but then I had reached a point in my other knitting on the train and I wanted to cast these on, so I thought, why not see how far an hour will take me? Because the other pattern that I was knitting was a tank top, and that took forever to see progress on, so I thought I sort of miscalculated how much progress I would be able to make in an hour. So once that hour was up, I had finished an entire pattern repeat, so a cuff and a pattern repeat of the melons. And then I thought I'll just knit a bit more and then I'll start the project vlog. And then I ended up knitting the entire shaft for the first sock. I have definitely made a few mistakes in the charts. So for the middle row I missed, hang on, where did I miss? I missed the very tip of the melons, the upwards facing melon slices, but I'll go in and duplicate stitch it, it's fine. And then I think the second row, or the third row, that is this last row, is where I started winging it, where I thought, I know the pattern by now, I can work it, and some of the, it doesn't look quite as neat because I did make a few mistakes. I think I messed up the ratio at some point and I had to compensate in other spots. So the first two repeats are actually by pattern and the third is by memory. And I have started the heel flap because the original pattern only uses one pattern repeat for the shaft and then immediately onto the sock flap, the heel flap. But I knit one, it felt too short. I knit two, it felt like a weird middle length. So I added the third and I think this will be a good sock size. Now I'm adding a heel flap and I will knit a gusset. This is my first time knitting what I think is a slip stitch. I haven't looked at any instructions for this, so what I'm basically doing is knitting one, slipping, knitting one, slipping, and then on the back side or on the wrong side I just purl all of them and then I do the same. So the ones that I had slipped, I slip again. And I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do, but I think it makes for a squishy fabric and I think I like the effect. So for this sock I have a red shaft start and then a green heel flap and gusset. I will continue the pattern onto the foot once I do all the decreases on the side of the gusset, and then I will end, I think, with a red toe, and then on the other I will switch the colours, so a green top, red heel and green toe. So that is the plan. This is working out very quickly, which is exactly what I needed after a month with the Cascade tank top, which is looking great, by the way. I'm very happy with how it's turned out. I'm at the point where I just need to ask my mother to put it on, and it's her birthday tomorrow, so she will be getting it tomorrow and she can tell me how much longer she wants it. If she wants it shortened, I'll shorten it. I will bind it off, block it and send it to her by post. So I needed something that was gratifying to knit because that has been a slog. I'm happy with it, I'm proud of it, and I need something else to do, and this is just the right thing. So I actually I thought that the Joyful Colourwork Socks book was the only one that was available on at the library, at my local library. But, and when I say local, I don't know how it works in other countries, but we have regional library systems. So, for example, in the south of Sweden, you can borrow books from one municipality and all the satellite libraries from them. You can reserve and they will transport them to the library of your choosing, so you can pick it up wherever works best for you. And the same thing in Stockholm, where I live. So I reserved this to be picked up at my local branch of the Stockholm library. And I looked through the patterns and I have a few picked out that I really hope that I can get around to, either this time around or another time. So the first pattern is obviously the Melondrama. These. I am modifying them a bit with more melons per foot, but I would also like to knit the Halloweeny socks, the skull socks. Spooktacular, which I think you will probably have seen other people knit, because these are spectacular and just so cute. And I would also like to knit, the shamrock bouquet ones for St. Patrick's Day. But what am I looking for? I'm looking for, oh yes, the very sweet ladybug pattern. And did I have another one that I also wanted to knit? So you see, I just have so many options and so little time. But, oh yes, the happy hour socks. How cute. So cute. So those are probably also going to be knit up at one point or another. But I thought that this was the only available book from her. She has another one, Charming Colourwork Socks. And I went back to see if they have it in the library where I am visiting now, so in the south of Sweden, in that municipality. They didn't, but then I checked the Stockholm library again and they have the Charming Colourwork Socks as well. And I think there is a goose pattern in the Charming Colourwork Socks, and those I want to knit. So I reserved that as well for a later date. So I think I have this book for another week or two, and I'm all for borrowing books from the library. I think that's a great way to spend my time and effort and to encourage the library or the municipality government to spend more money or to allocate more money to the public libraries. But I also want to support Charlotte Stone directly, so I might just go in and actually buy the other patterns. So I will finish this sock, then I might actually cast on a second sock from this book, because I'm fairly confident in my pattern reading. So this is a fairly easy pattern for me to read, so I can go back and look at, okay, how many green stitches, then how many black stitches, and figure out the chart from there. So I don't need the book for the second sock, but I don't want to take pictures or copy anything from the book, because that would be intellectual theft or intellectual property theft. So I might just go in and buy the patterns. But I liked the experience of going through the different pages and look at the socks and read about the different yarns and the little foreword that she had, because it's such a very tangible way of connecting with other knit creators. And I follow her on social media. I think her content is great. It's a very inspirational and educational. So having her book, holding her book in my hands and going through the pages and seeing how she set everything up and how she chose to lay out her patterns was just a very nice experience to have. So I want that with the second book as well. So I think for sure that I will be knitting more of her socks. So even if they might not be for me, I want to knit socks from her book to give to other people, because this has been a very quick project comparing to the Royal Winter socks, which I still can't really get over the fact that I failed with twice. Compared to them, this is such a quick colourwork project, and I feel like I'm learning. My fingers are learning. They're getting used to the tension a bit more, and I'm getting used to it's trial and error, right? So that is it's really in line with my curriculum, or my goals for the autumn, of learning more neat small needle colour work. So the ideas that I had about knitting textured socks for my sister-in-laws, I might scrap in favour of fun colourwork socks instead. So that is the update for today for my Melondrama Palestine socks. I've had an absolute shit day with anxiety through the roof. So now I'm giving myself the opportunity or the chance to run it out. But the weather is turning so cold that it's actually hurting my lungs to breathe. But this is at least one of the things that I know work for me. But I'll see. It's going to be a very short run today. And then once I'm finished, I'll probably manage another pattern repeat of the Melondrama socks, which are not shit, which is good. You take what you can, I guess. I want to hold up my sock to show you, but I don't want to put down the mic and I don't want to clip it to to my collar either. Does that work? Maybe. So the half an hour is up. I did finish the last pattern repeat. I think I started on the second or something line of the upwards wedges, and I was able to finish the entire thing in half an hour. Now I have to knit the toe with this obnoxious green to make a contrasting version to the first sock. Then I will sew in the ends, which I will also time myself doing so I can tell you how long that took, because I wouldn't call this a terrible amount of loose ends to weave in, but it is definitely more than I'm used to with a pair of socks, because most of the time I just knit a vanilla sock with either a self-striping yarn or a plain yarn with some texture instead. So this is a lot of ends to weave in comparison, but seeing as this is the raddest sock I've ever knit, I think it's worth the time and the investment. I'm also curious to see the difference in the tension, because this is the first small needle colour work project that I've had in quite a while. So I think that my gauge might have changed in the first versus the second sock. So it's a good thing that I have different cuff colours, because I know that the red is the first one that I made. So after I sew in the ends and block it, honestly wash it, I can tell you if the gauge changed at all with my stress levels and or my comfort levels. So on to knitting the toe. And also, this is how much yarn I have left of the main or the background colour and the main colour. So this is a very, very small amount of yarn. Let me see if I can actually weigh it for you. So what I have left of those two 50-gram balls is 11.29 grams. So 476 of the black and 646 of the red. Okay, so that's quite enough foot content for today. This is not that kind of channel, but the sort of channel that it actually is, hang on, do I want tea or do I want hot chocolate? Looks like we're having tea. So my watermelon socks, my Palestine socks are finished. I'll probably just wait until that is finished, yeah? Is this a reasonable size of cup for a tea? I think so. So the sort of channel that this is knitting beautiful things for a left-leaning brain. So now that we've established that foot content is strange, not to yuck anyone's yum, but I don't personally get it, I want to talk a bit about my Palestine socks, my watermelon socks. They are quite comfy. They are thick and quite squishy, which I do like. The pattern definition on the socks now that they have been washed once and worn once isn't great anymore. The yarn is quite fuzzy and it's not necessarily the crisp outcome that I would have wanted. Do I, however, wish that I had made them in a different yarn? Not really, because this was a very good learning opportunity for me. I did learn about my gauge with this sort of yarn thickness. That was very useful. I also feel like I did learn quite a lot about my tension, because my tension when I am tense myself is actually really clearly visible in my work. So I can see at which part of that week where I knit these that I was the most stressed. And they fit. They are a bit of a tight squeeze through over the heel. I wonder if this issue is alleviated by the fact that I don't do an afterthought heel, because I think that if I didn't have an interruption of my colour work at any point in the sock, ooh, cute dog, I think the tension would have been even more tight and even more uncomfortable to put on. I mean, they are very well-fitting once I actually have them on. They don't feel like they slip or slide around at all, which is nice. I was a bit worried about them being too floppy now after washing them, but that didn't happen. Come on. There we go. I have bought the exact same yarn, but in one different colour for another pair of socks that I wanted to knit, my Wicked socks. And I am excited about those. A bit worried, of course, about them not holding up very well, but I think I have a solution for that, because these socks, the issue is mainly that the colours felt together in the high impact areas, so on the soles basically. And I think I have a solution for that for my Wicked socks. But all in all, fun project that I'm happy with the outcome. I'm happy with the lessons that I learned, and I'm happy with myself having time and actually managing to finish them within a week, which was nice. I should go through the stats for how long they took to knit, but I want to eat breakfast first. To figure out how much time I actually spent on this, I thought instead of timing everything I do, I'll just weigh how much yarn I knit up in half an hour, and then I will multiply that by the finished amount of weight for each sock. So I ended up with one sock that is 58 grams in total, and I multiplied that by the time that I had spent on 30 minutes of the colour work section. So yes, the heel and the toe and the cuff, they are single colour and not as time consuming, I suppose, but they are a very small portion of the total project, so I thought I'll just average everything out. So with those calculations, I came out to, and also counting in the time it took to weave in the ends, because I timed that as well, I ended up figuring out that the sock knitting itself took 12 hours and 10 minutes, for both socks, and the weaving in of the ends took another 45 minutes. So a grand total for these socks of 12 hours and 55 minutes. And that is over the span of 7 days. So I am very happy with how much I managed to squeeze in. This is fairly fair of an estimate about the time that I can spend knitting. I have a life that allows a lot of knitting time. I do work full time, but I do some knitting on my breaks. I do some knitting on my commute. I also have some longer train trips about once a month where I have up to 4 or 5 hours of uninterrupted knitting time if I so choose. So nearly 13 hours for my socks. I feel like that is a good number. I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with the work that I was able to put in. All in all, the yarn was very inexpensive. I got it during October sale, so I think I paid €4 a skein for this project, and I bought 3 skeins, the red, the green and the black. I only needed one of each, so the yarn cost was €12. The time on my needles, or the active knitting time, was 13 hours, and paying €12 to have 13 fulfilled, relaxed, enjoyable hours, I find that very inexpensive, at least in my economy and in the country where I live, because spending time usually costs money, and having those hours where I, in a week, was able to create something, solve problems, figure things out, learn things about my tension and a new method for the heel flap with the slip stitch. I find that very reasonable. So knitting is a slow hobby. It can be quicker, of course, if that is something you chase. You can always cut corners. If it's all about the finished objects, then you can get a circular sock knitting machine or a flat knitting machine, which I am a bit curious about. I had a little chat about that in my comments with a subscriber, that the flat knitting machines look so very tempting. But at this point in life, I feel like my knitting by hand is very much worth it, because where else do I spend hours and hours for such a low price? This project has been really good for my colour work itch. Not that it has satiated it at all. It has, rather on the contrary, made it a lot louder, this colour work longing. So much so that the project that I'm working on now, which is just the hem of a tank top, is understimulating because it's just a stockinette stitch. But I have more colourwork projects in mind. I have a few more sock projects in mind, some of them that I've already started. I am pre-filming a few things for Vlogmas, because this month of October I did some vlogging. I did, I don't know, half of the days maybe, or a third, where I vlogged. I did a little Vlogtober series, and I thought that was a very fun thing. But I know for myself that in December I really enjoy watching YouTube, or just have a festive, cozy video in the background. So I thought I will start filming and making some projects for Vlogmas. So Vlogmas will not be as vlog heavy as Vlogtober was, but rather more video heavy, I think. So if you see me knitting on something in the upcoming weeks and you feel like I haven't really talked about it or you are curious about it, just hang tight. It's probably coming up in December for my Vlogmas series. But that was a tangent. This video was about my Palestine socks. To get back to the point, to get back to why I knit these in the first place, not just because I wanted a pair of fluffy, warm colourwork socks to practice on, but also because I want these to be a statement piece. I want these to be a conversation starter. Because these symbols, they can be very, very salient, can't they? I have found that in the last few years, in the last 2 years, the watermelon symbol always makes me think of the Palestinian struggle, wherever I see it. If I see a watermelon scented product, I will think about the Palestinian struggle. If I see a children's outfit or a baby hat with a watermelon pattern, I will think of the Palestinian struggle. So my watermelon socks, although they are beautiful as they are also a beautiful symbol for me and for, hopefully, for the people who see them as well. That, wow, someone was willing to spend 13 hours on knitting a pair of Palestine socks, because we cannot forget. But it feels almost overwhelming. Not just almost, it feels overwhelming. And I don't feel qualified to talk about the impact of all of these humanitarian crises that go on. I don't feel like I am the best mouthpiece to talk about the famine in Sudan. I'm not the best mouthpiece to talk about the genocide in Palestine. I'm not the best mouthpiece to talk about the climate crisis and the weather-related disasters that have been happening all across the globe. And with that being said, I could get back to my previous point about this being Are they done hammering? But with this said, I would like to make the point again that knitting these has been a very cheap way of spending 13 hours. But the money that I didn't spend for the time that I spent is money that I can donate to humanitarian aid. For Palestine, for Sudan, for maternal and children's health, for reproductive rights, for LGBTQ plus rights, for rebuilding communities that have been affected by disastrous weather, for example. So that's what you're getting on this channel. You get knitting and politics. So that. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Take care of yourself. Bye. I spent the time... Is that a chipmunk? We don't have chipmunks, but they're called squirrels. No, it's just a bird. But it's a bird that is hanging upside down in the tree. How exciting.